So if the opener Never Too Late from Vertigo Films felt comfortable and familiar, LA Productions have provided a at least somewhat grittier drama with the second new play for today, Big Winners, which is nevertheless familiar in the sense of it being domestic and human-centric, which a large number of the original plays for today were, so it's very much in that mould. It felt as well more like a distilled play. Every word from Martha Watson Allpress's script counted, and each exchange was sharp, honed and unpredictable. Allpress incisively explored how a comforting routine can become a hollow prison in a relationship long built on evasions, one that systematically denies Edith Thistle's self-fulfillment, Edith being the Sue Johnston character. Its precision and depth felt closer to Edward Bond's Ollie's Prison, which was on BBC Two in 1993, say, than the general run of genre-constrained television today. And indeed, you could see both sides of this marital portrait, yet also truly grasp how Arthur Thistle, played by the excellent Paul Copley, who was in 7 original plays for today, how Arthur had for decades simply stopped listening to his wife, or at least consistently listened to her, and failing to acknowledge her personhood. So it felt like a direct heir to Play for Today's core tradition of videoed studio drama about individuals in an enclosed space. I mean, this was obviously using an actual house in Merseyside, but it uses it in very much the same sort of way that spaces were used in most original plays for today. Big Winners employed music in the best old Play for Today style, very sparsely and sparely, but also introduced moments of ambient dissonance that perfectly enhanced the psychological drama. This was library music being well used. And as an enclosed room play, using Raymond Williams's term there, its power came from telling details. The locked door, a secret held for 50 years. The couple's habitual rock, paper, scissors game, its performance shifting subtly as their world cracked open. In terms of acting, Alexa Davies, I thought, brought a brilliant, really everyday, understated warmth to her single mum, Jade, while the drama was expertly enacted by Sue Johnston and Paul Copley. Superb casting. Always great to see these actors. Johnston accessed her familiar mix of warmth and doddery charm seen in The Royal Family, great sitcom, of course, and The Cockfields, much more recent sitcom that Joe Wilkinson was a key force in. And she fused these traits with, I think, a yearning, steely intelligence here. Copley showed Arthur's casual, charming irreverence, but how that was pickled in complacency before crumbling into a desperate, belated attempt to reconnect. I think the actors did create a fruitful ambiguity in the final act, really, and the last few minutes, the final scene, where we can imagine for ourselves what happens at the end. I think that was a good thing. It didn't present one straightforward conclusion. It allowed us to imagine what might happen afterward. Now, when it comes to the social political significance, this is in a different ballpark, really, to Never Too Late. Big Winners is set in the mundane town of Rawtenstall, which is in a bellwether Lancashire constituency, thinking about it politically, and it's subverted the lottery win cliches with its really strong central plot twist that happens early on. And indeed, the Thistles' £14 million prize becomes a catalyst instead for Edith's late self-assertion. And I would say it offers a charged update of Willie Russell's Shirley Valentine that explores the clash between conventional comforts and the yearning for art, knowledge and self-discovery. And this is there right at the start with the particular book that Edith is seen reading, which has a strong feminist charge to it that Arthur's just not interested in at all. So how did Big Winners go down? I mean, with Public, really, really well again in terms of building an audience. It managed it. I mean, it didn't have the same scope of promotion as Never Too Late. It did have both Johnston and Copley and the director Emma Turner appearing on BBC Breakfast, which I didn't see, sadly, at the time, on I think the Tuesday, a couple of days before it was on. But it actually outscored Never Too Late in terms of its audience size by 9,000. Not massively, but it edged it. It got 906,000 viewers purely on the overnight figures, and that will grow a fair bit. It got 7.2% audience share, which was 0.8% up on the average for that slot. So I think Channel 5 will be delighted with that audience size. In terms of critics, well, I've only found one review from a mainstream press publication, which is really also really non-committal and neutral, and pitifully just descriptive, really, of some things that happen in the play. And this is from Roland White, writing in the Daily Mail. And that's all there was. So it seems like a lot of the critics haven't grasped the idea of anthologies being different each week, and you need to give them all a go. Clearly, like, picking Never Too Late first was a risk in that sense from Channel 5, in that you have people not taking to that particular style, maybe won't give the others a go, but clearly they should be giving the others a go. If you look at the social media reactions to both of them, I would say Big Winners are slightly warmer than the social media reactions to Never Too Late. Big Winners didn't have the sort of criticism that Never Too Late was getting. It had a few criticisms, say, like, for example, the locked room being all clean and tidy, and even the decor seeming a bit too modern for 1973 or 1974, whenever they'd locked it. I think broadly that perhaps is a valid criticism from realist grounds, but it isn't necessarily entirely a realist narrative, this, so judging it purely on those details seems a bit unfair. And perhaps they do have a key. Perhaps Arthur was going in there and regularly cleaning it up. It's not impossible that happened if you do want to look at it from that logical, rational sort of perspective. And the other criticism was from a few people on the social media sites not liking how it was open-ended, really, in its conclusion, wanting a straightforward ending. I suppose that is what people are generally used to, really, if they are watching things like Never Too Late a lot of the time. I would stand up for Martha Watson Allpress's decision alongside director Emma Turner to make it ambiguous, to let you imagine what happens next and discuss it with other viewers, really. It's getting people thinking and getting people talking rather than just closing it on a very straightforward note. I think that's good for, well, what you could say is genuinely a play here on television, and there's been far too few of them in the last 30 years, without doubt. So I thought this was tremendous, really, Big Winners, as you'll have gathered from my comments. So as with last week when I made some comparisons to classic series Play for the Day, I'll make a brief comparison here to Mike Leigh's Hard Labour, produced by Tony Garnett as well, crucially. This features Liz Smith as Mrs. Thornley, who is exploited via her paid labour and her unpaid domestic labour, and is in, I think, an even more unhappy marriage, really, than Edith and Arthur Thistle in Big Winners. Big Winners is a much more modest production. I mean, Hard Labour, I think, runs to like 70 minutes or so. There's far more characters. I mean, you've got Alison Steadman, Ben Kingsley, many, many others in there. Alan Erasmus, too. Pictorially, it's more vivid. You've got DOP Tony Pierce Roberts presiding over some really wonderful framings. You've got great performances and real feminism here in both Hard Labour and Big Winners. The IMDb and Letterboxd score for it that I've came up with is 65.9, so about 8 or 9 up on Never Too Late. So that's pretty good. I would even go for 90 myself. It was play for today, returning, not in its radical guise, really, but you've got a lot of socio-political import underneath this in terms of constricting gender roles and how economics have restricted a working class family, how the financial side has restricted what they can do with their lives, basically. And I just think it was really, really moving, well-constructed play that had me crying at several points.